If Gojo and Sukuna rematch, it will not be close. Now, obviously, off the ripsy skipsies. Off the ripsy skipsies, if they rematched, and they remembered everything from their last fight, I think it will go either way. Obviously, the first fight, Sukuna won because of the world cutting slash. Gojo didn't see that coming. Got his ass split into two. But if they were to rematch and they remembered everything from the first fight, so Gojo would know about world cutting slash, Sukuna will have everything on bypassing infinity. You know what I'm saying? Bada bang, bada boom. It could go either way. But I don't know. Low key, I don't know. It could go either way though. That's like a big 50-50. But low key, I wanna put Sukuna 60-40 just cause but then again I wanna put Gojo 60-40 because it's Gojo. He low key, I mean he didn't win, but he was about to win. He just didn't know that world couldn't slap.
Gojo vs Sukuna has easily been the biggest fight in JJK, and even a year out, there's still people talking about it.
You talking about JJK, nigga? This is one of the biggest fights in fucking anime, bro. What are you talking about?
And there's a ton of different videos that you can find on
this shit was lit, bro.
YouTube talking about Gojo and Sukuna's fight, but this
lit.
video is going to be a little bit different. We're going to be talking about the fight, but in the perspective of a rematch. We're going to take Gojo and Sukuna.
But it's different though. Like, you go take his Sukuna's true form versus Gojo. Ooh, whoa. Oh yeah, I forgot the unlimited purple too though. I forgot about the unlimited purple. Oh, I forgot about the unlimited purple. I don't know. Yeah, I forgot about that unlimited purple though, bro.
Sukuna and give them the knowledge after their fight. And the only other big change that we're going to have in this rematch is that Sukuna is going to be in his true form, like the one from chapter 200.
Okay, so he's gonna be in his true form. No Maharaga. But he's still gonna put up a good fight though, even without Maharaga. I don't know, motherfuckers be thinking like Sukuna would not be able to hang if he doesn't have Maharaga. He in his true form, he can still hang.
But he's gonna be fully restored. With me, I have
fully restored though. That's full course energy. He got more, and he got double of Yuta's curse energy. Ooh.
6, and yeah, let's get started with the video.
Does have 6
so
eyes,
going
though.
into this matchup, obviously the biggest difference now is that Sukuna is going to be in his true form, meaning he's not only going to have an extra set of arms, but he's also going to have a mouth. Sukuna is going to be able to perform chants and incantations much easier than he was before against Gojo, and obviously having an extra pair of hands is going to help him in hand-to-hand combat. Overall, Sukuna is going to have a
because I ain't gonna lie, hand-to-hand combat when Sukuna was in like just mega, like obviously still in Mega Bible, when he was like, you know what I'm saying, 2 arms, Gojo was putting them bitches on him. But 4 arms though, I still think Gojo go put them bitches on him, bro. But he gonna be able to defend more.
Much bigger advantage in this body, which overall just has a bigger frame and more muscle, and he's just more capable for hand-to-hand combat, along with performing. So I almost said,
what did bro say? His body is like perfect for being a sorcerer, bro.
Jutsu. Like, along with performing curse techniques and stuff like that while fighting Gojo. Now, when talking about hand-to-hand combat between Gojo,
hold on, I'm sorry. Late night snacks.
and Sukuna, the first thing to really remember is that Gojo was absolutely dominating him in their first fight. Like, it's really bad. Gojo's entire strategy for taking down Malevolent Shrine pretty much just revolves around Gojo beating up Sukuna so badly to the point where he can no longer maintain his domain. To put it in perspective, the only other time that we've ever seen this happen to anybody was when Toji stabbed Dagon so badly that he also just couldn't maintain his domain. Now, obviously, Sukuna doesn't get beaten up that badly, but just to put it into perspective of how much damage you actually have to take before your domain actually crumbles. And keep in mind, Gojo was doing this in
Also, question, what we think of this fight? Episodes or movie? Episodes, I feel like obviously episodes will build up more suspense, you know, it's gonna get you excited. Cause you know, if them niggas do if they do episodes, you know Gojo wins. It's gonna be the end of an episode. I'm already knowing the Gojo wins. That's gonna be the end of the episode, bro.
Literally 3 minutes. And that's not even the craziest part of Gojo's hand-to-hand combat against Sukuna. When Gojo's unlimited void breaks down the first time, and he's fighting against Sukuna who's also within Malevolent Shrine, Gojo is still able to combat him, which is much more crazier than you might think. Now obviously Gojo in this instance doesn't have his curse technique, meaning he doesn't have his blue amplified punches and he's not amplifying his speed with blue, which if we look back to the Higuruma fight with Yuji, we learn that when sorcerers fight without their curse technique, they also lose that intuition that comes with using your curse technique for all those years to kind of build that muscle memory for combat, because obviously something like blue in Gojo's arsenal is just literally ingrained into his fighting style, and it's something that he should be doing all the time. It would kind of be similar to if you were playing a fighting game and you kind of switched off your main, so even though you know the basic mechanics of the game and you know how it works, you don't really know the moves and you lose out on a big part of your arsenal, which just changes up everything completely. So not only is Gojo slower moves and you lose out on a big part.
I'm not one to, you feel what I'm saying, but
part of your arsenal, which just changes up everything
behind him. Hold on.
Game and you know how it works, you don't really know the moves and you lose out on a big part of your arsenal, which just changes
them, and you use your Stardust barrier. Why? What was the point? I'm just saying, what was the point? Because obviously whoever this is, he's ass. You could have hit him with a grab, bro, or you could have put him in another combo. Why did you waste a point to hit him with that weak ass Stardust barrier? What the fuck? That was bad comp, bro. That's bad comp. Alright, bro. I'm gonna see you, bro. Appreciate you for stopping by. Always. I forgot what I was about to say. But thank you, bro. I appreciate you. And I'm gonna see you. Have a good night's sleep. I was gonna say good night, but
up everything completely. So not only is Gojo slower because he's not amplifying his speed with blue, and he's also not punching as hard because he's not amplifying his strikes with blue, even at the fundamental level, it just seems.
Look at my goat. He's so fucking great, bro. He's so great.
To be a mechanic within the series that when you're fighting without your curse technique, you do just become worse overall. And keep in mind throughout all that, Gojo is still managing to combat against Sukuna. The question is his forearms gonna make up the difference? Because Sukuna is definitely on the low end of their relativity, but if we give Sukuna an extra set of arms and giving him his true form, is that gonna push him to the higher end of the relativity or even?
I still don't think he going toe to toe with him and hand to hand, but obviously he gonna be better. But I don't think he gonna be like, I don't think he gonna be overwhelming him with no hands though.
Above Gojo, we just don't really know. Pretty much regardless of what you think about their hand-to-hand, Infinity is still clearly a problem. I mean, in their first fight, Sukuna only lands one punch against Gojo, and it's not even a punch actually, it's a kick. Pretty much, unless he's using something like amplification, Infinity is still gonna be a problem.
That's what I'm gonna say, because he has... Dog, he gonna have his full curse energy, bro. He would be able. He could be able to spam the amplification.
No, Infinity is still a problem, just specifically because Sukuna
Who this shitty ass Mike?
Doesn't have Maharaga this time around. Now you might be saying, okay, Sukuna has the World Slash to use on Gojo, which is always going to be an option unless Gojo starts tearing him literally limb.
Man, but he don't know about it though. Like this shit caught him by surprise. This shit caught him by. Look at his face, bitch. That's called being caught off guard. He will know about this shit
from limb and making sure he doesn't have 4 arms anymore. But the World Slash does require some amount of charge up, and even though it was made specifically to counter Gojo's Infinity, Sukuna put conditions on it.
Before transforming, when he had half his arms, Sukuna imposed a binding vow on activation condition so he could cut Gojo. Now he must satisfy both the palm signs and curse chant conditions for the slash that cuts the world and direct the curse technique with hands on.
Because he doesn't expect to fight Gojo 2 different times, which is like a big deal in this rematch. When it comes to hand-to-hand and them fighting, obviously Sukuna's gonna have to use 2 hands to defend against Gojo. I mean, we saw that in their fight constantly. He can't just block Gojo with 1 hand, similar to what he was doing to Yuji and Maki whenever they were fighting 16-figure Sukuna. Sukuna's constantly using 2 hands to block Gojo, and then if he's inside of Gojo's domain where Gojo has Infinity up and he has to use 2 hands in order to launch off the World Slashes, there's multiple things Gojo could do to counter within that time frame, considering Gojo doesn't have to always use chants and hand signs. One specific thing that Gojo can do that we know he can do now that he was hesitant to do before is his Unlimited Hollow Purples. Unlimited Hollow Gojo was hesitant to use before, not only
I
because
forgot about that shit, bro. I'm not gonna lie, I forgot about that though.
I don't think he was fully aware of how to implement it, and more so got it after he got awakened due to his black flashes. But he was unsure if it was going to, completely fry him or not. But he
This is where the episode go in. That's what I'm saying. Like, they do the episode shit, let's go in here, bro.
finds out after he launches it, hey,
Gojo wins
I
the
actually
next
don't take that
episode.
much damage from
That
this.
story.
Probably because it's his own cursed energy that's clashing with his own cursed energy again, that's reinforcing his own body. So Sukuna seemed to just take way more damage from the unlimited hollow purple. If something like that happens, even if they're in a domain clash, Sukuna's domain is obviously going to go down. And now Gojo knows his limit for how many times he can reset his burnt out curse technique. That doesn't mean he'll never
Remember that. That's when that nigga brain started bleeding.
do it again. It just means he should use these resets more cautiously. And if he can get Sukuna to have enough damage on him to the point where Sukuna is having to heal a lot more of his body before he heals out his burnt out curse technique, then he's going to get his domain off faster, and we're going to see something similar to what happened in chapter 229 before Mahoraga came back out. And that's generally what the problem of Infinity represents, because this time around Sukuna doesn't have the 10 shadows. He doesn't just not have Mahoraga, he doesn't have the 10 shadows at all. He said after Mahoraga died, his 10 shadows became inactive. He can no longer use them. That's how he concludes that Megumi is the one that used it inside of Yuji's domain. So Infinity is still an issue, and it puts Gojo, once again, I mean, just like in every other fight, at a massive advantage, especially inside the domain clash, where Sukuna's really only way out of that is hitting Gojo with the World Slash. Because if he keeps domain amplification up, obviously he's not going to be able to use his curse technique at all, even though it will be mitigating some of the damage Gojo does to him. And if he decides to use the World Slash, it's even worse because Gojo can now use unlimited hollows. He can also drag Sukuna around, things like that. So yeah, Infinity is still a big issue.
Just like Six said, when it comes to Sukuna activating the World Slash,
they
even
doing
that
it,
is
though?
a bit of a stretch if you ask me. There's a ton of more requirements that he has right now for activating a World Slash than there was before. A lot of people dismiss the idea of a rematch almost immediately because obviously Sukuna's cut down Gojo before, but nobody really takes in the context for how exactly that even happened. Sukuna pretty much launched off that dismantle with no conditions attached, and he did that by making a binding vow, like Six said earlier. Not only does Sukuna have to make a ton of different palm signs and chants, but Sukuna also has to direct the slash with his hands, which again is just another indicator that the slash is coming, which makes it all the more unlikely that Gojo is even going to be hit with this slash in the first place.
That's what I'm saying, bro. Nigga, if they rematch, Sukuna not winning off no world cutting slash, bro. He's not, bro. He's not winning off that shit, bro.
We know that curse techniques can be felt before they're launched. Sukuna says it verbatim, and it's also shown to us when he predicts that Gojo's going to use a red, but the spark of cursed energy can
Prior to the activation of domain expansion, a short head technique and other powerful techniques, there will be, without exception. Wait, no, it's from left to right. No, it's from right to left. Based on the incantation, the scale of the cursed energy, Sukuna judged that the spark before his eyes was that of the cursed technique reversal red.
be felt before techniques are activated, and with Gojo having the 6 eyes and obviously this super enhanced version of cursed energy sensory, it's going to be much easier for Gojo compared to everybody else if he's trying to sense that Sukuna is about to launch an attack coming at him. Also coupled with the fact that
I can't wait to see this version of Gojo animated. But I'm not gonna lie, I don't really like Gojo's his character design with his mask, bro. I don't like it. I don't know why. I just don't like it. I don't like his hair like up like that. I don't like this, bro. I like this one, like with his hair down and you can see those beautiful blue eyes, bro. Those beautiful blue ocean eyes, bro. That's my king. I don't like his. He's still clean. He's still swag, but it's like, I don't like that. Because with his hair down, he look way better, bro. I can't wait till he come out of that fucking prison.
and the fact that he's going to be pointing in his direction, it just makes it all the more unlikely that this attack is actually going to land. Now, some people might argue that because the slash already landed, then this point is kind of redundant. If you think about it in Gojo's perspective, there are like a ton of different reasons for why he wouldn't really be worried in this instance about Sukuna doing something like that and why he's possibly off guard. Now, the first and obvious one is that Sukuna is pretty much crippled. Like, he has one leg, one arm, he's burnt to charred from purple, he doesn't have Maharaga, his RCT is almost burnt out, and overall, Gojo pretty much has won the fight. Not only are we told this in the editor's statement, but Usakabe says it, Gojo has his RCT restored and stuff like that. In Gojo's position, you would never expect something like this from
This is where the episode go end at. Gojo wins.
Sukuna. It's also fair to account that it's a dismantle by Sukuna that targets space instead of like an actual object, and all dismantles up until this point, besides the ones casted from Malevolent Shrine obviously, they all are directed by Sukuna pointing at his target. So up until this point, Gojo has no idea that Sukuna can even make a binding vow like this in the first place. It is a little bit different, but Kashimo just does dodge a world slash, but to be fair, Sukuna did tell him outright, dodge this. He kinda has more of a verbal indicator for the world slash coming at him, so it is a little bit different. But then again, if people like Kashimo can dodge the world slash with some form of indication, then I think Gojo definitely can. Like, you also have to keep in mind that when it comes to Gojo's ability to sense cursed energy, Gojo with his 6 eyes can see cursed energy so thoroughly that if he doesn't wear a blindfold, he literally gets overwhelmed by the amount of information that he can see just by cursed energy. So when it comes to how the fight's gonna...
Hey. Come here. Come at the door. No. Sit down, bro. Oopa. Let me check the joint.
Play out. I think we made it pretty clear that Sukuna's only option is probably going to be casting Malevolent Shrine, and in all honesty, I think both of them have pretty fair reasons for starting off with the domain expansion. Like Six said before, obviously Gojo knows that he can use his domain and recover his burnt out curse technique about 5 times. It took him about 3 times to fry Sukuna last time with Unlimited Void. It only really makes sense for Gojo to start out with his domain expansion, and then just assuming that Sukuna is not also casting Malevolent Shrine reactionary to Gojo's Unlimited Void, their best strategies for both of them are gonna be casting their domain expansions, which is also ironic because it's pretty much exactly like how Yuta fights Sukuna in Gojo's body. It's pretty much exactly the same thing, like they both start out with their domain expansions.
That's what I was gonna bring up. Whenever Yuta actually comes back to fight Sukuna,
yo, Six, your mic is fucking trash, dog. That ass.
In Gojo's body, the first thing he does is expand his domain, and Sukuna obviously responds with Malevolent Shrine. Because the only thing that can really keep up with the domain, and especially one as powerful as Unlimited Void, is another domain expansion in response. So whoever decides to open their domain first, it doesn't really matter. We just know that it's going to get to that point, and whenever it does
you only live once, bro.
Get to that point, the other person is going to have to respond with their domain. It all comes down to what you think actually happens when their domains actually clash. Gojo's domain can withstand Sukuna's Malevolent Shrine for 3 minutes of
It's not better than the strawberry one.
Outside, like hurting the barrier. Gojo, within those 3 minutes, has to beat Sukuna to the point where his domain cannot be maintained. Now, most people would say, since Sukuna's in a more durable body in his hand or form, which I don't too.
That made me think though. You feel me? Like, oh no.
Going to immediately collapse Unlimited Void. I mean, we saw Yuji break Mahito's domain, and the domain was still up. We saw Megami break into Dagon's domain, and the domain is still up. So just damaging or hurting the barrier doesn't immediately collapse it. It really depends how you think the fight goes inside the domain. Obviously, I just gave my breakdown on why I think it would more than likely go in Gojo's favor. It's really just to do with the fact that Sukuna put so many restrictions on that world slash. That's really his like tool to beat Gojo, and Maharaga's not around this time. Maharaga was obviously a much more
Yeah, this fucking mic is trash. Let's all take into account that Sukuna had prep time and had planned to kill Gojo. Gojo was just freestyling that shit. That's true. People always talk about how Sukuna was limiting himself throughout the battle in order to adapt, but they never seem to remember after Maharaga was released, Gojo was also limiting his attacks in fear of Maharaga adapting his technique. You know, the MVP on their fight was Megumi Soul tanking all of Gojo's attacks. Hell nah, boy. Fuck that little nigga. Gotta remember that Sukuna went to the fight with full knowledge of Gojo. That's true. That's true. That's true. That is true. Them motherfuckers had a whole spreadsheet. Him and Sukuna and Kenjaku had a whole goddamn spreadsheet listing Gojo's every fucking thing. Yeah, that mic is ass.
effective tool against Gojo than the world slash was, which is why even though Sukuna knew how to do the world slash as soon as Maharaga did it, he chose to keep Maharaga out, and he was even going to have him adapt to Red at a specific point. Because what's the point in having the world slash and world slash only when you can have Maharaga, who has the world slash and can continue to adapt to different techniques that Gojo has? Yeah, it just makes more sense for Sukuna to keep Maharaga out in that instance, and that's why I think Maharaga was a more effective tool, and why I don't think the world slash is going to be as effective against Gojo in a rematch.
So one thing that me and Six found that I thought was pretty interesting was when Sukuna came to the conclusion that what Yuta's about to do is an unlimited purple, he comes to that conclusion after realizing that Yuta probably entered this fight thinking that this was like an all or nothing. Obviously, one unlimited hollow purple, which is what Sukuna's imagining, isn't enough to take down Gojo and Yuta in Gojo's body, more than likely. What's really the point in saying that this is going to be like an all or nothing attack if this all or nothing attack isn't even really like an all or nothing? And to me, the way I interpret that is that Sukuna is probably picturing that Yuta isn't only about to use one unlimited hollow purple, but he actually thinks he's going to use multiple. And then in that sense, over time, it would be like an all or nothing attack. It would.
Holy, damn my Gojo. Oh. Holy, oh my gosh, my Yuta, you so hell.
Slowly wear down Yuta and Gojo's body by just continuously taking the damage from those purples. It's not even like that the concept of Gojo spamming hollow purple is so foreign to the series. It's been flat out explained that Gojo can just spam his techniques over and over and over again, so I don't even really think it's too hard to imagine even being so realistic. Even if you were to just go all out and explaining how you think this fight would go, let's say they don't enter the domain period. There's already the problems that we mentioned earlier, but if Sukuna tries coming at Gojo with something like amplification, obviously Sukuna can't use amplification and his curse technique at the same time, but if he uses amplification, then maybe his physical attacks will be able to do some damage to Gojo, but even then, like, I don't really think that they're going to be very helpful. Gojo isn't afraid of turning off his Limitless to engage in hand-to-hand combat. We see him do this verbatim against Sukuna, and he even does it against Maharaga and Agito, so even in a 2v1 situation, like, Gojo doesn't mind putting himself at a temporary disadvantage to take back his footing in a hand-to-hand combat scenario. It is fair to mention that Sukuna can use amplification pretty quickly. Like in this example against Gojo, Gojo goes for a kick, and right before the kick lands, Sukuna quickly activates amplification, turning the wheel black. So even if strikes are about to happen, it's not like Sukuna can't just turn on and off amplification, but will Sukuna really be fast enough to activate amplification, then charge up a curse technique and fire it at Gojo? Probably not. You probably have to make a lot more assumptions than just, dodging a kick. So while there are examples of Sukuna being able to turn off amplification really quickly, and that might give him an advantage in hand-to-hand combat, I highly doubt it's going to be long enough for Sukuna to really do anything too crazy. The best case scenario for something like this would be like if Sukuna activates amplification and then maybe he hits Gojo with a cleave, but I highly doubt something like that is going to happen, especially considering just how fast and strong Gojo was. I really don't think that's going to be a working strategy in this fight, because like Six said, even though Sukuna is going to be in a better form for hand-to-hand combat, and he might even be faster and stronger, we just don't really know by how much, because again, it's very possible that Gojo inside of his domain was doing more than enough damage to take down Sukuna's barrier, and it's not like Sukuna being in his true form is going to put him like just over the edge or massively above. It might, but we just really don't know. Obviously, having an extra set of hands is going to be problematic for Gojo in really close range, but if it is problematic, then Gojo can literally just throw him with blue. We see this verbatim happen inside of the domain. When Sukuna is just spamming block, Gojo literally just runs up behind him and throws him around with blue. Even if Gojo's put into a position where Sukuna's just blocking every attack he throws at him, there is literally no problem with Gojo just going behind him and throwing him with blue. So pretty much, no matter what way you slice it, it's pretty bad for Sukuna. Now let's say hypothetically, they both enter the domain, and then eventually Gojo does the unlimited hollow purple like Six was talking about. It's gonna be really bad for Sukuna because if they're both hit with unlimited purple, Sukuna is just gonna take more damage than Gojo because Gojo's getting hit with his own cursed energy, and just overall, that doesn't do as much damage to himself. And if both Gojo and Sukuna are using RCT at the same time, but Sukuna has taken just far more damage overall than Gojo, then he's just gonna take a longer time to recover and activate his domain expansion, meaning Gojo is probably just gonna catch him with unlimited void, and it honestly might happen after the first domain clash. It really depends on how fast Gojo can pull it off, but considering the fact that he's activated, what, I think it's 8 blues at once against Sukuna, he's activated a red inside the...
How did he do the infinity sign? Wait, how did he do it? Right. How did he... Oh, it was like this, right? Wait, no. 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 Damn, how did Gojo do the infinity sign? Damn. But that is not an infinity. It was like, it's an 8. 8. It's an 8, sideways 8. Bro, let me just look it up. Oh, he put his hands upside down. Yeah, like that. Wait. Ugh. Bro, that's not even possible. How is he doing that? Sunyan. Oh. Sunyan. Man, that shit not possible, bro. Fuck out of here. He just so great, though.
The domain.
Yo, play the vid.
He shouldn't really have a problem creating the unlimited hollow purple, because all unlimited hollow purple is a standing blue shot at by a red, or a red shot at with a blue, that creates this massive explosion with no target. And then obviously in the end, it just creates this massive explosion. Gojo is even able to make a red inside a Malevolent Shrine, even when unlimited void wasn't even active, period. So if he can make 8 blues against Sukuna, and then he can also make reds just inside of Sukuna's domain even without unlimited void, he shouldn't really have any problem making the unlimited purple, period. And once that happens, Sukuna's going to be hit with way more damage than Gojo is, just because his cursed energy is way more potent to Sukuna than himself. It's going to take Sukuna a longer time to recover, and then at that point, he's fried. Just to retouch on something that Six said earlier, when Sukuna talks about him not having Maharaga and him not having the 10 shadows, he's not just saying that he doesn't have just Maharaga. The entire 10 shadows is currently offline after Maharaga was destroyed. So it's not like he's just losing Maharaga and there's all these other Shikigami that can come after Gojo. He literally just doesn't have the 10 shadows, period.
One thing I guess we could bring up is the fact that Gojo does say Sukuna, quote unquote, was not.
That's what I was saying. See, they know, I know. That's what I was saying.
Giving it his all. I think it's important to understand what Gojo meant by this, because not giving it your all can mean a couple of things. It can mean Sukuna was maybe pulling his punches. We already went over earlier how Sukuna wasn't using domain amplification inside of the domain clashes because he had Maharaga there and he was waiting for Maharaga to adapt. So if Sukuna is using domain amplification inside the domain, obviously that would help mitigate the damage that Gojo is doing with his curse techniques, his blue enhanced punches, or the reds he's shooting at him. And we know it does minimize red, even though it's not specifically a curse technique. You know, it's a curse technique reversal, whatever. And Maharaga is specifically making the fight easier for Sukuna, as Sukuna says to Gojo. The Gojo's like, I didn't know you were fighting as hard as this. And Sukuna's like, well, I'm not fighting as hard as you. Literally just saying, hey, Maharaga is making it to where I don't have to fight. that hard. It also could be in reference to Sukuna holding back his true form or not using his true form, but Gojo shouldn't know that he's able to do that. He doesn't do that until Gojo dies, and I don't think he says that to Gojo at any point, so there's no reason to assume that. So when Gojo says Sukuna's holding back, either Sukuna using domain amplification or his use of Mahoraga.
So pretty much no matter how you interpret it, there's really nothing that changes the outcome in the interpretation that we're talking about, unless you believe that Gojo was just barely winning the domain clashes, which again just doesn't really make much sense, or you believe that Sukuna in his true form just puts him massively above Gojo and completely leaves that realm of relativity.
I don't think he does.
There's absolutely no reason to interpret it any other way.
Damn,
this
my
video
head
has
went
been
chalk.
pretty much everywhere, but at this point you guys should get the idea of what we're trying to say. I mean, bottom line, in my opinion, it just comes down to the fact that this fight is a rematch. If both of them start out the fight differently, like I know in a lot of other videos, some people talk about Gojo fighting Sukuna without 10 shadows to begin with, and for me, and the reason why I'm gonna interpret the rematch this—
See that right there, that's different. That's different. It depends though, I think. Like, okay. If Gojo and Sukuna fight, Sukuna no Mahoraga, but he doesn't have his true form, like he's in that form. Come on, cuz, stop playing.
Way. It just comes down to the fact that Gojo's obviously going to have the knowledge on what he can do and what he can't do. He's going to know that he can do tiny barrier and that he can potentially create up to like 5 unlimited voids. So Gojo's going to be going in there with a much better strategy than Sukuna. Not all too much really changes if you give Sukuna the knowledge of their previous fight at all. The only thing that really changes in the matchup is that Sukuna's World Slash now has more requirements to actually fire it off, and the fact that obviously, again, he doesn't have Mahoraga. So pretty much just overall, the rematch should be pretty clear cut. Go check out Six's channel. He's a small up and coming YouTuber. Subscribe to Six, subscribe to me. And yeah, is there anything else you want to say, Six?
Can we stop talking about JJK?
Go check out my Dragon Ball videos. I love Dragon Ball. And yeah.
Okay. So they didn't give an answer. I don't know who will win. I'm not gonna lie. I really don't know who will win, but let me see his Dragon Ball shit though. He got good takes.